Well, good Monday morning. I have some news. The news is I'm taking a trip to Oregon. Woo, all the way from Florida. I'm flying. So I'm going out there to help a sister who's going to teach a retreat. I'm going to help her by playing the piano for her. And I'm going to get to see the Pacific Ocean, which I've never seen. I've never been to Oregon. Anyhow, it's an adventure for me. Which, I'm kind of old, but I like adventures still. So I'm going to not be back for a fresh Granny Shares the Bible until next Tuesday. But until then, brothers and sisters, how about exploring some of those old ones? If you want to dig in Revelation, I've done it. If you want to dig in Matthew, I've done it. If you want to dig in John or Acts or Exodus, I've done them. They're back there. This is number 409, lesson number 409. So there's a lot of places you could dig around and just fill up those days, if you will, until I get back. Because I'm going to come back, Lord willing, and I'm going to get back on it. But we're going to start back with Mark again. We're going to get on Mark chapter 5. We'll start it today. And then I'll pick it up back up next week. All right? We'll say Mark chapter 5. Let's start there. Mark chapter 5, verse 1. And they came over unto the other side of the sea, unto the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. Oh my, where did them unclean spirits come from? Where did they come from? Well, let's talk about that. Let's look in Isaiah chapter 14. The unclean spirit. Would you like to be called that? Would you like to be that? No, never. Because it's not unclean like your fingernails are dirty or the outside of you is dirty. It's unclean in the depths of who you are. That's what an unclean spirit is. It's filthy. Doing filthy things. Let's look. It says, Isaiah 14 and 12. It says, How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? So this is the beginning. This is how the unclean spirits came into this world. All right, listen. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. So this Lucifer, let's go over there to Ezekiel 28. Let's see what happened. Ezekiel 28. It says, Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. Hallelujah. By the multitude of thy merchandise they have filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee out as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Oh, it goes on to talk about Satan and how he was cast out of heaven, and what he's done to the nations, how he's corrupted the nations. But the Lord cast him out, and we'll look in Revelation and talks about him in chapter 12 of Revelation. And it says, And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. He had a third of the angels going along with him against God and wanting to exalt themselves. And they were cast out. And that's where those unclean spirits came from. That's who they are. They're in this world right now. People that seem to be out of their minds sometimes are not, it's not a mental dysfunction. I mean, it's not their brains. It's not their natural bodies. It's an unclean spirit in them. I'm not saying all people who are out of their minds are filled with the devil, filled with an unclean spirit, but there are many. If there were many unclean spirits moving and working, I mean, if the people were filled with the unclean spirits in this time, don't you know they are now too? And this man was really filled up with that unclean spirit. It says, this man immediately met him when he came out of the ship, out of the tombs, and who had his dwelling among the tombs, verse 3, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains. He was a wild man, because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces. So he was strong, stronger than a normal man would be. Neither could any man tame him. He could not. He couldn't be in regular society, because they were trying to contain him by putting him in chains, but he just plucked the chains asunder. The devils in him had made him extremely strong. And always night and day he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. The devil is a tormentor. He is a tormentor. You don't have liberty to hate anybody else in this world, but you can surely hate the devil. Hate evil. Hate the devil. And I hate the devil. I hate the devil for causing this man to cry and cut himself with stones, and all the other people in this world that are tormented by him. Oh my. But, here's the but. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him. No man could tame him. But when he saw Jesus, he ran and worshipped him. What an amazing thing to know about Jesus. That he is our Lord. He is the Lord. He is our God, our King. And no matter what's wrong with us, we can run to him and worship him, and he will help us. But when he saw Jesus afar off, he ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I abjure thee by God that thou torment me not. So who's talking? That unclean spirit's talking, not the man. For he said unto him, this is Jesus, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. It wasn't just an unclean spirit. It was many, many unclean spirits. Thousands. They say a legion could be as high as 3,000 soldiers. Thousands. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. So the devils in this man are saying, Please don't send us out of the country. Please have mercy on us. I don't understand. I don't understand why Jesus would even listen to them at all as far as what they begged him to do. But this is something that he can help us to understand. But right now I don't understand. But he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there were nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. And all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. Why does the devil want to enter into people? Or into some living creatures? I don't know. Maybe they feel naked. And they are. You know, the angels, they're not naked. The angels are clothed and righteous. And maybe when these angels got cast out of heaven, it made them feel naked. Just a thought. But they wanted to be in those swine. Now, if these were God's people feeding swine, probably to sell them for meat, that's all there could be sold for is meat. The Jews were not allowed to eat swine. So whoever was feeding this great herd of swine, or whoever owned this great herd of swine, maybe they shouldn't have been doing that. So maybe that's why the Lord was willing to send them into the swine. All the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them. And forthwith Jesus gave them leave. So when he got ready, he gave them leave. You can go. And the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000 and were choked in the sea. Now, let me ask you this. If a man that has probably 2,000, at least 2,000 unclean spirits in him, can run to Jesus and worship him, and those unclean spirits don't want to get around Jesus, if he could run to Jesus and worship him with those unclean spirits in there, we can too. We can always run to Jesus no matter what's got a hold of us, no matter what's wrong, no matter what's troubling us. You can run to Jesus and you can ask him for help. I do it all the time. I run to him and ask him for help because I don't know. I don't know how to deal with life a lot of times by myself. And I run and worship him and find his help. And this man, though he was so possessed by the devil, was able to run and worship him. And so when the Lord sent those swine, gave them leave, they manifested how many were in him, how many were in that man. Because 2,000 hogs were choked in the sea, and you know probably one of those, at least one was in each one of them. At least one. So we don't even know how many there were. Verse 14, and they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. So they ran back to the city and everywhere. They that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country. They're telling it everywhere they went. And people are coming out of the city, out of the country to see what was done. And they come to Jesus, verse 15, and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind. and they were afraid. Jesus had changed the whole life of that man. He was sitting and clothed and in his right mind. The devil will try to drive you crazy. He'll try to make some circumstance that's going on in your life cause you to just become unreasonable, become where people can't even be around you because you're so grouchy or unhappy about it. You need to remember there is a person, and his name is Jesus. And you can get help from him. And you can be back in your right mind. And if you're used to going around naked because of the way the world wants you to do, you can be clothed. You can begin to dress modestly. And you can sit and be comfortable, not driven by the devil. This man that had the legion was sitting clothed and in his right mind. This is what Jesus wants to do for you if you're being driven by the devil. He wants you to let him help you. He did that for Legion, and the people, when they saw, they knew this man. They knew they had put chains on him and tried to keep him from being so violent. They knew him. They knew who he was. When they saw him, they were afraid. And they that saw it told them how it befell to him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. They told. When they had seen it, they told all of them. He told them devils to get out of that man. And they went and got in those swine, and the swine ran off the cliff and fell into the sea, and they're all drowned. Told them all about it. But it didn't make them want to be with Jesus. They were afraid of him. And they began to pray him to depart out of their coast. Leave, leave. Oh, we don't want anything. We don't want this. We don't want to be around you. That's why people don't come to church when they are going to feel the Spirit of God. And they know they're going to feel the Spirit of God because they're not wanting what Legion wanted. They're not wanting to get loose from their sins. They're not quite severe enough. Legion needed it. But people that are just living their normal lives, they think they don't need Jesus. And they fear him, and they don't want to be around him. And when he was come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. So the man didn't want to leave Jesus. That's the way we are that's gotten his help. We don't want to leave him. We want to be with him. Howbeit Jesus suffered him not, but saith unto him, Go home to thy friends, and tell them how great things the Lord hath done for thee, and hath had compassion on thee. He wanted the man to witness. He wanted the man to tell what happened from his point of view. And that's what we do. We tell what Jesus has done for us. I'm going to come back to this because I want to talk about telling it next time I talk to you. And I'm running out of time. So let's stop right there on verse 19. And when I get back from my journey to Oregon, I will tell you about it, and I will tell you about what we're supposed to do when Jesus cleans us up. God bless you. I'll see you when I get back.